Welcome to the basics of neuroscience. Today, we are going to explore one of the most fascinating and complex abilities of the human brain, memory. We will discover exactly how our brain stores information, why we inevitably forget things over time, and what happens when this incredible biological system breaks down due to severe conditions like amnesia. Let us dive right in and uncover the secrets of the mind. To start, imagine your brain is like a massive, bustling library. When you first walk in and pick up a book, that is exactly like short-term memory. You only hold it for a brief moment before putting it back. If you decide to check it out and take it home to keep on your personal bookshelf forever, that becomes long-term memory. Your brain constantly sorts every single experience you have into these different shelves. This sorting process is absolutely crucial because it allows you to navigate the world efficiently without having to relearn everything every single day. Now that we have our library analogy, let us look at the scientific categories. Memory classification is how we categorize the way neural networks encode, store, and retrieve information over different time frames. Broadly, we divide this into two main systems. First, we have short-term memory, which holds a limited amount of information for just seconds to minutes. Second, we have long-term memory, which can store vast amounts of information indefinitely. Understanding this division helps us see that memory is not just one single filing cabinet, but a highly dynamic system distributed across the brain. Building on that, long-term memory is further split into two distinct types. Declarative memory involves the conscious recall of facts and events, like knowing that Paris is the capital of France. This relies heavily on a brain structure called the hippocampus. On the other hand, non-declarative, or implicit memory, involves unconscious skills and habits, like knowing how to ride a bicycle. This relies on different pathways, such as the basal ganglia. This separation is absolutely vital because it explains why a brain injury might wipe out your childhood memories, but leave your ability to walk perfectly intact. This brings us to an important question. How exactly do memories transition from short-term to long-term? And what happens if they do not? To understand this, we use the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. The formula is R equals E raised to the power of negative T over S. Here, R is the memory retention, or the probability you will remember something. The constant E represents continuous decay. The variable T is the time elapsed in days, and S is the relative strength of the memory. As time T increases, retention R drops exponentially. But if you increase memory strength S through studying, the retention stays much higher. Let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. Imagine a student learns a new neuroscience concept. Based on the complexity, the initial memory strength, S, is estimated to be 2 days. We want to find the probability of remembering this concept after T equals 1 day has passed without any review. We substitute 1 for T and 2 for S into our exponential decay equation, giving us e to the power of negative 0.5. Calculating this gives a retention R of approximately 0.606. Physically, this means there is only a 60.6% chance of remembering the concept. Nearly 40% of the information degrades in just 1 day without review. Now that we have calculated the retention, let us look at what this means visually. On this graph, the horizontal axis represents time in days, and the vertical axis represents memory retention from 0 to 1. The solid curve shows standard retention, demonstrating how fragile short-term memories are. they decay rapidly, just as we calculated. However, look at the dotted curve above it. This represents increased memory strength through repetition and active recall. The decay is much slower. This diagram beautifully illustrates why cramming is biologically inefficient and why active review is necessary to build strong neural connections. Having seen how healthy memory works and decays, we must now ask, what happens when the system physically breaks? Imagine your brain's memory system is a video camera recording your life onto a hard drive. Amnesia is what happens when either the camera breaks or the hard drive gets corrupted. It is a severe clinical condition resulting from brain trauma, disease, or surgery, characterized by a profound loss of memory. Patients with amnesia suffer severe damage to specific memory-forming structures, disrupting the very consolidation process we just learned about. To understand amnesia fully, we divide it into two primary categories based on our video camera analogy. If the hard drive gets corrupted and deletes old videos, you lose your past. This is called retrograde amnesia, which is the loss of memories formed before the injury. On the other hand, if the camera's record button breaks, you can still watch old videos, but you can never save a new one. This is anterograde amnesia, the complete inability to form new declarative memories after the injury. These patients are tragically trapped forever in the present moment. This distinction between memory types was proven by the most famous case study in neuroscience, patient HM. To cure his severe epilepsy, surgeons removed his bilateral medial temporal lobes, including a structure called the hippocampus. Following the surgery, HM developed profound anterograde amnesia. He could not form any new declarative memories. However, his non-declarative motor memory remained perfectly intact. Before HM, scientists believed memory was distributed equally across the brain, like a cloud. His condition revolutionized our understanding, proving that the hippocampus acts as the absolute gateway for converting short-term memories into long-term facts. Because the hippocampus is so critical, clinicians need a way to measure when it is failing. We quantify this using the Amnesia Severity Index. The formula is A index equals M old minus M new, all divided by M old plus M new. Here, the A index is a dimensionless number between -1 and +1. M old represents the patient's score on a standardized test of past memories, like childhood events. M new represents their score on forming new memories, like recalling a list of words. This mathematical ratio gives doctors a standardized, objective way to track memory degradation over time. Let us apply this formula to a clinical scenario, similar to patient HM. A researcher evaluates a patient who scores 90 points for childhood memories, so M old is 90. However, they only score 10 points for newly learned words, making M new 10. We plug these into our formula. The numerator becomes 90 minus 10, which is 80, representing the massive gap between old and new memory capabilities. The denominator becomes 90 plus 10, which is 100, representing the total memory output. Dividing 80 by 100 gives a final index of 0.8. This high positive value strongly indicates severe anterograde amnesia. The index we just calculated perfectly matches the physical reality shown in this diagram. Here, we are looking at a cross-section of the human brain. You can see the short-term memory input attempting to pass through the highlighted hippocampus to become long-term declarative memory. The large red X represents the catastrophic damage seen in severe amnesia. Because the biological engine is broken, the neural pathways responsible for memory consolidation are completely severed. The patient's past memories in the cortex are safe, but no new facts can ever cross that bridge. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us review the most important ideas. First, we learned that memory is not a single entity, but is divided into short-term and long-term systems, which rely on different brain regions. Second, we used the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve to mathematically prove why active repetition is biologically necessary to stop memory decay. Finally, through the tragic lens of amnesia and patient HM, we saw that the hippocampus is the absolute gateway for new memories. Ultimately, studying these basics of neuroscience teaches us that our very identity depends on these microscopic synaptic connections. Great job following along.